Hello there friends and welcome. For today's Pathfinder Enhanced Guide we have my very first, amusingly enough, Vivisectionist Guide and build. And we'll be going with the LICH Mythic Path, not only because I think it's the most thematic one of them all for Vivisectionist, but also because of how fun and powerful it is gameplay wise. This character will achieve a massive amount of attacks per round. We have 5 main hand dagger attacks, together with another 5 offhand attacks, for a total of 10, not counting attacks of opportunity, plus we also have 2 natural attacks, a gore and a bite, for a total of 12 attacks per round, so you'll be a true meat cleaver. Your armor class can be quite decent as well, starting from the mid to the late game, despite not focusing into dexterity, and of course we'll have a massive amount of strength, something usually only the mutagen classes like Alchemist can get. Your damage will be quite outstanding too. We are talking about around 200 on normal hits and 600 to 700 on critical hits. Even double spellbooks too from Alchemist and also from LICH, including the very powerful and quite thematic for this build LICH spells such as Vampiric Blade for a huge amount of regeneration per attack. So without further ado, let us get into our Vivisectionist LICH build. Alright, Vivisectionist is actually one of the best archetypes in the entire game. It's really quite the stacked class. You have spellcasting up to level 6 spells with many nice buffs, especially for the early levels, together with full sneak attack progression, the same as a rogue, for 10 dice of sneak attack. The mutagen, of course, which is one of the strongest features in the game, great for both offense and defense by granting you stacking ability score bonuses, usually to either dexterity or strength, together with a stacking boost to natural armor class, and it only increases from there. You also get an amazing amount of bonus feats, close to that of a fighter, and even access to the advanced rogue talents, and also the normal ones, with a few exceptions like Opportunist. To put it simply, it's a class that lets you do quite a bit of everything. For race, I'm going with human because it's the one I like the best, but as I said, Vivisectionists have quite a lot of feats to spare, so feel free to go with any other race you want. For the background you have 2 choices, Shackles Corsair if you want mobility and athletics as class skills. It doesn't matter that much but can provide a nice boost. Otherwise just the classic Street Urchin and Pickpocket if you want stealth as a class skill, together with the highly useful +2 bonus to initiative. For your ability scores, you already know me, I vastly prefer going with strength instead of dexterity. It's just way more efficient to me. We don't have to bother with the very annoying dexterity feat tax that is weapon finesse and also mythic weapon finesse, plus it's way easier to increase strength through the many size enhancing boost spells we have, both of which you'll get to cast as a Vivisectionist yourself, so even better. As far as armor class, we'll have enough ways to overcome it. In any case, we still want some dexterity, 14, actually 15, this way we can qualify for all of the dual wielding feats, by just equipping belts that enhance dexterity as we level up. Charisma, well, since we'll be going with LICH, as always, late game your LICH's hit point score will be based on Charisma instead of Constitution, so to settle for a happy balance, let's just go with 12 Charisma, although it doesn't really do much until then, chapter 5 only that is. Some intelligence will be needed to cast our Alchemist spells, 12 is more than enough, the rest we can get from headbands. Now you have 2 choices. You can leave Constitution at 10, but I would rather start at 12 because it's safer, especially for the early game. For that, just dump Wisdom to 8 so we can have 12 Constitution. Of course you can just respec your character before reaching Mythic 9 as a Lich anyways, to get everything from Constitution into Charisma if you prefer, and even start with 14 Constitution now, it's up to you. For skill points, I like going with Athletics. Despite not being a class skill, you'll have more than enough strength, or if you went with Shackles Corsair, well, it will be a class skill. Besides that, Use Magic Device can provide a lot of extra versatility to what's already one of the most stacked classes in the game. The other skill points are up to you. Since we can still achieve decent dexterity, I'll be going with Stealth. For Trickery, I often have CAVALIER who can't really cover Stealth, so it's really up to you. You can also pick Mobility here, and something like Arcana or World because of our decent intelligence. As far as your level 1 feats, well, we'll be dual wielding, so 2 weapon fighting is the must have. For the second feat as a human bonus feat, I would just get Improved Initiative. The faster we can act, the better, because we can catch enemies flat-footed for lower AC and well kill them before they can react or attack us in return. Now understand that early game, because you'll be going with Strength, this character shouldn't just rush during battle. Ideally, you want to have the enemies focus on your tanks first. After that, you send your Vivisectionist to flank the enemies. And don't forget, as early as level 1, you can cast the Enlarge Person spell on yourself for reach, which lets you attack safely even at melee. For your Alchemist spells, please remember that I already have a complete guide explaining all of the best spell picks here, so I'll just keep this short and simple. True Strike, Shield, Enlarge, and also Reduce Person. Remember that alchemists can learn spells from scrolls, so don't feel limited by what we pick during level up. For deity, as you'll be going with Lich, the classic Argatoa for the bonus dialogue. Of course, if you prefer going with a Trickster, just any that allows the chaotic alignments like Caden, and then you can start as chaotic good or neutral. For level 2 as a bonus feat, you might as well get Feral Mutagen already for the extra bite attack. You have high enough strength to hit with it, plus sneak attack will also apply for extra damage. So now you already have 3 attacks per round, 2 daggers and 1 bite. The other level 1 alchemist spells really don't matter outside of, let's say, Cure Light Wounds. For level 3, weapon focused into daggers, which helps overcoming the annoying penalty from dual wielding, even when having a light weapon on the offhand. Now we'll have the equivalent of just a -1 penalty. At level 4, increase strength, which is also what you want to increase on all of the other levels. For your level 4 medical discovery, infusion is the way to go. You could potentially pick this at level 2 as well, but I prefer to delay it for now because it's when we get access to level 2 spells. Infusion is one of the best alchemist abilities because by default all of the alchemist spells, including spells that are usually party-wide like haste, well, they can only be applied on yourself. Through infusion, however, we can apply any spell we have on allies, including personal only spells like, let's say, shield, which is what makes alchemists such amazing buffers. For your level 2 spells, Animal Aspect is quite powerful now. It's always been amazing for pets because Gorilla can enhance the tripping pets by +4, but now that it is classified as a polymorph effect, as per the latest patch with the Shifter DLC, it's also very easy to proc the Master Shapeshifter mythic ability on pretty much any ally you have, by just casting this on them, even super early game. For level 5, Combat Reflexes is the way to go because you won't really have the space for it later, might as well pick it now. And then, Pulse Life is amazing to buff on allies too, and there's also Blur and the animal buffs. Like I said, you can learn the other spells from scrolls. For level 6, Combat Streak, and here we are, Power Attack. This will work even with daggers, and the extra damage can mean quite a lot, because it will be multiplied on critical hits plus applied on every single one of our numerous dual wielded attacks, including our natural attack hits, from let's say Feral Mutagen. Plus at this point, you're starting to have enough bonuses to make up for the penalty to attack rolls. But you know, if you're fighting an enemy with very high armor class, you can just turn this off and on at will. For another spell, Blur. For level 7, you already know where I'm going. Outflank is the way to go, it's even better for dual wielded characters because of how many attacks we have. For your first level 3 spells, well, Haste is as always the best and the must-have. For level 8, Combat Streak, and you can choose between Improved Weapon Fighting or Lunge. The other one you'll get at level 9. Lunge will provide you with reach, which is amazing, especially for this build. We can attack enemies from far away, even at melee, while also overcoming any AC concerns you might have. As far as Improved Weapon Fighting, well, it's simple, it's an extra offhand attack. So pick the one you prefer having earlier. And then, I really like Protection from Arrows Communal because most of my other casters don't really get this, as I don't go with Nenio. For level 9, as I said before, either Lunge or 2-Weapon Fighting. And to pick Improved Weapon Fighting, remember to equip your character with a +2 Dexterity belt before leveling. For more spells, Rage can be quite handy to have, because it provides morale bonuses to Strength and Constitution. It will prevent spellcasting though, so be sure to remove allies from the area of effect that you want to keep on casting spells with. For level 10, this is when we first qualify for the advanced talents. Unfortunately, for some reason we can pick Opportunist, I guess it's Rogue or Slayer only. So go for Dispelling Attack instead. It's quite a handy ability to have. Every single one of your attacks, and may have an amazing number when dual wielding, will attempt to dispel one buff from the enemy. The caster level will be equal to your character level, so pretty nice too. For level 4 Alchemist spells, Greater False Life is nice, especially because it will stack with the normal False Life and you can cast both on allies, especially useful for your tanks. For level 11, the choice is simple, Improved Critical into Daggers. For another spell, Echolocation, you can even pick it earlier instead of Greater False Life. Because you can cast this on Ally String Fusion, well, you pretty much grant them the ability to bypass 99% of concealment effects in this game. Quite powerful. Plus the duration is huge. For level 12, now it's time for Greater Mutagen for even higher bonuses. And then pick anything you want like Freedom of Movement, Greater Invisibility or Death Ward. Now, if you decided to go with a Trickster, level 13 onwards is when you would be getting the special Trickster critical feats. And you can even use your medical discoveries as extra feats to get them quicker. So one now at 13, the other at 14, and the last one at 15. Now is when I would go for Double Slice to add some extra damage to our offhand, especially because at this point our strength bonuses will be huge. Level 5 Alchemist spells are kinda disappointing, surprisingly enough, compared to all the other spell levels. Just go with Stone Skin Communal and later Spell Resistance. For level 14, Combat Trick, and Dazzling Display so we can later pick Shatter Defenses. For 15, Shatter Defenses at last, just in time for all of my other builds. As a Lich you can even pick it earlier if you prefer, but I rather like this Feats selection here. For 16, Grand Mutagen. As far as your level 6 spells, they are pretty nice, Transformation being the best of them all. It can set your base attack bonus to the max, even as a Vivisectionist, so you'll have as many attacks per round and extra boost to damage from power attack as if a fighter. What's not to love? It prevents spellcasting, sure, but who cares? Your Alchemist spells are mostly for buffs, the same for the Lich ones. You can even turn allies into dragons through Dragonkind 1, heal them through heal, and of course we have Legendary Proportions, the ultimate size buff too. For level 17, Greater to Weapon Fighting. It is true that you could potentially pick this as early as level 15 or 16, so if you prefer it instead of Shatter Defenses, just go for it. For level 18, Feral Wings. Or you can just get Combat Streak into another feat. It's just that we already have the best ones by now. For level 19, I would grab a Meta Magic feat, because at this point, our Lich's spellbook, even as a no-merged Lich, is almost at full power. You have two choices, Bolster if you want higher damage with Lich spells, or Extend and Heighten for the ultimate spellbook Flexibility. At level 20 we get our Capstone ability, which is quite powerful for Alchemist, the Grand Discovery. True Mutagen being the best. For more Alchemist discoveries, you can go with anything you want, including either Enhance Potion or Extend Potion. Alright, now let's discover Mythic Progression for our Vivisectionist Lich. For the first Ascension, very simple, Close to the Abyss. This will grant us an extra Gore attack, we already have an extra Bite too from the Mutagen, so essentially an extra +2 attacks per round. For Mythic level 1 you have two choices. If you want to provide better buffing for your party members, Abundant Casting, because the level 1, 2 and 3 Alchemist spells are all quite powerful. On the other hand, if you're a more selfish Vivisectionist and want to further empower your main character only, Master Shapeshifter for the +4 bonus to all physical scores. Remember, you can just cast the Animal Aspect spell on you for this benefit. I would rather Abundant Casting because I'd prefer buffing the whole party, it's just more efficient in my humble opinion. No problem, because you'll be getting Master Shapeshifter later anyways. On Mythic level 2, thankfully we don't have to bother with the very annoying Mythic Weapon Finesse, so we can now pick Mythic to Weapon Fighting to outright remove all penalties from Dual Wielding. For Mythic 3, the choice is as always simple, Ever Ready is the way to go, especially considering how many attacks you have per round. You'll get a separate Lich spellbook now, since you can't really merge with a Lich as an Alchemist. For the champion, as always, I prefer the Marksman because it is a ranged ally, so not really in danger of getting hit. For your first Lich power, the choice is simple, Fear Control. The huge bonus to attack rolls is amazing, together with the scaling bonus to damage, what's not to love. You even get a Fear Aura too. It's one of the most stacked Lich powers. For Mythic 4, very simple, Mythic Critical Daggers. For the first skeleton upgrade, Fighter is still the best, except it was nerfed a bit in the latest patch. For the bonus feat, you sadly cannot pick Shatter Defenses anymore, and for some strange reason, Improved critical is bugged, you can choose the weapon to specialize in, so somewhat useless. I would just grab Arcane Strike here. You also can't pick weapon focus bows. Why? I have no idea. Just grab Heavy Crossbow. Thankfully, we can mercifully pick weapon training into bows. For Mythic level 5, now is when I would definitely go for Master Shapeshifter. For Mythic 6, Mythic Power attack for as high damage as possible before dual wielded daggers. For the second Lich Power you have two choices. Death Rush only if you have a Scald to provide pounce, or are playing a Kitsune which can get pounce too. Otherwise, just go for something different, Tainted Sneak Attack. It's quite thematic for our build. Just understand that the difficulty class won't ever be high. It's just a 10 plus Mythic rank plus your intelligence modifier, which isn't really the best. On the other hand, because the debuff will attempt to be applied and force the enemy to save on every single strike you have, chances are the enemy might end up failing. Plus, it's pretty easy to reduce the enemy saves as a Lich by a lot, through either level drain or also shaken. And if they fail, they'll become vulnerable to all weapon and elemental damage, which is quite the handy property to have, because vulnerable enemies take 50% extra damage from, well, all sources pretty much. For Mythic level 7, I would go for Improved Abundant Casting. Level 5 and 6 Alchemist spells are very useful, and at this point you'll have access to all of them. For level 8, now it's time for Mythic Initiative. For the other skeleton upgrades, just go with one that grants Spellcasting, because we picked Arcane Strike through the Fighter upgrade. Either Cleric, Inquisitor, Bard or Magus, and is fine. As for Mythic level 9, two choices, Archmage Armor for higher AC, you can cast the Mage Armor spell as a Lich. Last stand for the ultimate tankiness, it's just that we already have our Lich Phylactery for pretty much the same purpose at this point. There's even always a chance to, any you want. For the last Lich Power, well, this is when I would go for Death Rush, but I suppose if you don't have anyone to give you pounce, I don't think there's much of a point to Weapon of Death, because as far as I'm aware, the Bane Living property won't really stack with Outsider Bane that you get from the Crusader's Edge spell. Other than that, there's also Indestructible Bones. Pick whatever you prefer now. And as far as Mythic level 10, you are free to go with anything you want, truly, including getting an extra Mythic ability instead, like Last Stand. Alright, and let us get into gear for our Vivisectionist. For the amulet, ultimately you want Valexes, of course, for the highest bonus to strength. But you might consider going with Voracious Spirit too, because the stacking bonuses are not only varied, but quite powerful. For armor, you can actually wear light armor and still cast the Vivisectionist spells at least. So at the start of the game you can go with chain shirts, but eventually just go for haramakis. For robes you have two options. 7 sins when you want to cast your Lich spells, most importantly the buffs. Otherwise, just the classic Wandering Command for higher damage and attacks of opportunity. For belts, at first belts that increase strength, ultimately you just want strength and dexterity, since constitution won't really matter for a Lich, but it takes quite a while getting there. For the gloves, as you'll be dual wielding, Fencer's Gift of course for the bonus to the offhand damage. For boots you have two choices. You can go with Ronak's Sacrifice, which will increase your AC a little bit, but it's not that necessary for this character. I would rather leave it for a dexterity focused party member. So I just have the Abyss Walkers here. And of course, as always, the boots of Stampede for higher damage when charging. For headbands, at first ones that increase intelligence to cast all of your alchemist spells, eventually mental perfection ones including Darkness Caress, for a nice bonus to Charisma too, to increase our Lich's hit points. Even without the Charisma boost, Liches can still achieve an absurd amount of temporary hit points anyways. We have around 800 here and still missing the extra hundreds from Feast of Blood. For the glasses I just have Broken Trickster here, but since Darkness Caress increases all mental stats, you might as well replace it for Piercing Gaze. For cloaks, the Lich Cloak is by far the best if you plan on using undead party members. But there's actually two more cloaks that also benefit a Lich and undead party. One is the Cloak of Darkest Rites, which can increase your armor class, even difficulty class too. And lastly, the Wrath of the Undead, perfect for any other party members because it works as an aura. For rings, the classic Triumphant Advance for the huge morale bonuses. I just have the Evasion ring here, since alchemists do get high reflex saving throws. But you can go with anything else you want. Don't forget the Bane of Spirit ring is especially useful for a Lich because of how easy it is to recharge our hit points to pay for its cost. As far as the bracers, either go with your Phylactery for the revive ability, or just heavy hand for higher offhand damage. Now let us cover weapons and quickslots. I decided to go with daggers, mostly because the Hasty Eradicator offhand dagger is absurdly powerful. It can grant you an extra 2 attacks per round, which is amazing because it will stack when it comes to the offhand, as the haste boost will apply to your main hand instead. Besides that, for the main hand I have Retriever's Claw because I find the increased critical damage really powerful. Don't forget that I already have a guide explaining all of the best daggers including their progression. Now as far as quickslots, the classic Metamagic package because we have the Lich spells, such as Lesser Extend, also for the Alchemist spells and Normal Extend rods, Grandmaster's Rod for damage and Quicken for the same. Jarsigax just for extra elemental damage, and that's pretty much it, but you can also give your character a pet through the Triceratops statuette as always, and there's the Signet of Hausus Vertilio 2 to increase any skill you want, together with Divine Scroll access from Use Magic Device. Well, alright friends, so this was it from my Vivisectionist Lich guide. If you found it useful as always, please remember to like, subscribe, and even consider becoming a channel member. I truly appreciate your support. Thank you for watching and see you next time, friends.